Very well, guys. So we're now going to continue with the upper elements of this axe right here. And by upper elements, I mean this guys that we have over here. So if we go to wireframe real quick, remember Z. Oh, I always forget about activating my screen capture. There should be a way to have this on by default. Anyway, so we're going to go to this pieces. And as you can see, this one right here looks very, very similar to the cylinder that we did back here, right? The only thing that's a little bit different is that we actually have an angle. So I'm going to start with Shift A. We're going to go mesh. We're going to create a cylinder, and we're going to make this a 6-sided cylinder. There we go. Then I'm going to grab this guy right here, a G and Z, to bring it up. And we're going to scale it down, roughly around there. If we go to the components, we're going to use a loop cut to cut across the surface. And then by selecting that edge loop, we're just going to scale it up to give it this sort of effect that we have right there. Now, if we go, of course, to our perspective view, we should be able to, or we should be playing a little bit with the distance. Now, see how it becomes a little bit difficult to see the image when we're in perspective. For that particular reason, I like using this little software called PureRef. Some of you guys might already heard about it. If not, it's a completely free software. It's called PureRef. You, of course, can donate to the creators of the software. But I strongly recommend that you get it. I'm actually going to be using it quite a bit, especially when we go into the sculpting sections. So once you install it and open it, this is the little square. And the only thing I changed is going right click on the PureRef folder and going mode. And I'm using this always on top. So this means that it doesn't matter which window I'm using, this will always be on top. So if we go to our project and we go to our source images, we can just drag and drop this one right here. And by scrolling, we can get into the details. So that way I can see this specific part without having to be on the front view. So now that I have this, I'm going to go to face mode. I'm going to select this face right here and this face right here. And I'm going to press scale, Shift Z. Remember that with Shift C, we can constrain this to the C axis. Then I'm going to scale on Z again to push them down. And again, I'm just trying to get the general shape. I'm looking at the distance that we have from the handle to the border right there. And I'm trying to get it as close as possible. This one, I do think I'm going to keep like this, perfectly round. I don't want to flatten it out like the other one. I feel like this ones are a little bit more uniform in this regard. So that's it. The one thing that I do feel like we could benefit from is, well, this lower face seems to be a little bit in. It goes a little bit closer in. And it also feels like it's a little bit taller. See the difference between this one and this one? So this one, I'm going to press a G and C to bring it down a little bit more. There we go. So that the proportions are a little bit better. Now, don't worry about these cuts. These are the kind of things that people tend to worry quite a bit when they're modeling things. And you need to understand that in this first creation of the high poly, it doesn't matter how we get there. So in this particular case, for those cuts, we're going to be using sculpting to get them. So in this case, I'm just going to grab this object, add a modifier. Well, first Shift A, apply all transforms, Control A, sorry, and we're going to do a bevel right here. The bevel is not going to be as intense, so I'm going to press a Shift to have a little bit more control over the bevel. Something like that should be more than enough. And again, that bevel is just to get an idea of how the topology is going to look, because all of these things we're actually going to be using a sort of Dynamesh thing here in Blender. They don't call it Dynamesh, they call it remesh. So we're going to be remeshing this thing once we go into the sculpting section. So there we go. That's the first one. Now this second one seems to be a little bit more cylindrical. So I'm going to go back to number 3 over here. We're going to create a new cylinder. So new cylinder. This one is going to have, I'm going to give it a little bit more size. So I'm going to do something like, I don't know, because it looks very round. So I'm probably going to give it 20 sides, to be honest. G and Z, bring this up, scale this down. And you can see that we also have a line down the middle. So we're going to go to our loop cut, do one right there. And that line that we just have right there, we are going to move it, GC, a little bit up and scale it out. There we go. Now you can see the angle there is not as extreme, so a little bit closer to that. And there we go. That's it's looking quite nice, I would say. The face, this face seems to be a little bit low, so I'm going to push it up. And again, it's a matter of taking a look at this distance and trying to guesstimate how close we are to the actual effect, which in this case, I think we're quite close. Let's grab this line, and this line, and Control B to bevel it, or to bevel them all. That should give me a little bit more of a round effect. And all of these details, and again, the construction, all of that sort of effects, we're going to be doing them in sculpting. I am going to give this a shade smooth. And yeah, there we go. This one should also be shaded smooth. Not bad. So let's take a look at the blocking and let's see how far away we are from the initial blocking that we did. And if we take a look here, you're gonna see that this big cube represented all of the volumes. So that tells me that we are a little bit off. So for instance, this one definitely needs to be quite bigger. So I'm gonna press S and then Shift and Z again to push this up without really affecting other things. There we go. And then I'm gonna do S and Z to make it a little bit bigger. Also gonna G and C, push it a little bit up. I know that because this, as you can see, this is kind of like half of the distance, and the other half is going to be this big block that we're going to be modeling a little bit later. So yeah, that's it. Like that gives us, or this gives us a very nice effect so far. As you can see, we got all of the elements in a good position, I would say. And now we can do some of the like more specific elements, which are like the spikes, right? So we're going to do the spikes in the next video. Again, just a very simple process to create them. And once we have the spikes ready, we're going to be going into sculpting mode. So we're going to take a look at the principles of sculpting here, and we're going to be sculpting and getting this piece to look the best possible way. I know I've talked about this before, but I want to just go very quickly about this technique right now. So I'm just going to explain this again. The high poly is the high poly version, the very like detailed version that we create of a character. You can use ZBrush, you can use Blender, you can use a lot of different things. And once we create this high poly version, we're going to be doing this retopology process. Don't worry, we're going to be explaining all of this inside of Blender in the next couple of chapters. But I just want you guys to understand that the reason why we're going to be focusing on the high poly is because if we can capture the high poly super precisely, then everything else becomes a lot easier to do. Bakes, textures, preparation, shading, like all of the other things becomes very easy. So yeah, that's it, my friends. I'm gonna stop the video right here, and in the next one, very short video, we're just gonna be doing the spikes. So hang on tight, and I'll see you back on the next video.